A decorated combat veteran with 31 years of service encountered his most profound trauma and abuse not on the front lines, but behind a desk in the 18th Medcom in Seoul, Korea. He is the author of three insightful books: his memoir, A Soldier Against All Odds, Out of the Uniform, Back into Civilian Life, a practical guide to help veterans navigate the complex world of VA benefits and programs, and his third book, Leading Through the Crossfire, a blueprint for managing toxic work environments. In this gold conversation, Jason candidly shares his personal experiences within the toxic culture of the U.S. Army, offering valuable insights for anyone facing similar challenges.
My name is Jason Pike. I served 31 years in the United States Army from age 17 on up to age 48. I've done 9 years overseas in 5 different countries: Germany, Canada, El Salvador, South Korea, Afghanistan, and I'm probably leaving one or two out. But I've gone from the bottom up to senior level, and I've served in a variety of capacities in the military, or in the Army, U.S. Army. And so my experience is very broad. With the first book, everybody asked about my worst experience. And most people would think it would be in war or when you're under fire, which I have been, but it really was not that. It was peacetime garrison. It was toxicity was my worst, was my worst experience of the 31 years. And it was not what a lot of people would think it is.
So you were 17 and you enlisted. Can you take us back to that 17-year-old? Did you have any idea, really, what you were getting into? And what was your emotional state at that point, if you can describe it?
At age 17, see, I failed the first grade, so I was a junior going to be a senior so I raised my right hand to defend the United States at the age of 17, and I was a junior in high school because I had failed the first grade. My parents did not want me, they did not encourage military service. Even though my dad was in there, they didn't talk about it. It was for the people that were less than best, and that was known. You don't want to go, you want to go to college, or you want to, but I was not confident in academics. This was sort of, this is where the less than best go to, and I was less than best according to the experts. The school scores. I mean, all your viewers out there, I guarantee you, if we were to take a standardized test right now, or I would be lower than most of you out there on standardized tests, and that was me. It was verified. It was known. It was known that I was not going to be maybe a manual labor person for the rest of my life, working at McDonald's, a fry cook. That was sort of a known. And so I was not confident in my abilities. I didn't really know what I was getting into. I was baptism under fire, age 17, while everybody else was doing their junior, senior year party, whatever. I was going to basic training. See, I was in high school. I was a soldier in high school. I was in the reserves, So I joined in the reserve forces 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, drinking beer and shooting weapons while we drank beer. It was a different type of military. It was a redneck force. Okay. It was a redneck force. But that's how I was groomed up in the beginning. I went in there, I went into basic training, June of 1983, Fort Sill, Oklahoma. It was all hell broke loose on me. I could not believe what the hell I was in. If you've seen the movie Full Metal Jacket, that exactly is the setup. It's the barracks, it's the cussing, the screaming. It is a level of hell that is just beyond. It was not Marines, it was Army. I know the movie looks Marine, but it was Army. But it was the intensity was Marines. It really was. And that drill sergeant was, I mean, I know a lot of old soldiers think about their drill and they're when I went through, but it really was that. Okay. It really was that. And I'll stand by that. It was hell on earth. It was nothing easy for me, especially I'm a slow processor. I still am. It takes me a while to do things such as open up the computer. That's why and I wasn't getting it. I really wasn't getting it. And I was identified just like on paper, the drill sergeant identified me as somebody that he could possibly push out of the military. And they did this through a technique through the criminal correctional facility. It was a military brig, and I went to a military brig at the age of 17, which is the military police ran it. I didn't do anything criminal. It was a drug deal with the sergeants to let's see if we can make him or break him. Pretty much you're going to break him. When you go to that facility. They can beat you. You climb on hot rocks. You go through obstacle courses. It's even a worse form of hell than what I was already at. And the reason he sent me is because he wanted to see if he could just like process me out. I'm going to give up. I'm going to get out. I was the less than best of the platoon. And he said, well, he could identify that just like my teachers did processing, because you got to, I just stuck with it. I just stuck with it. And I didn't want them to break me, and I was going to never quit it. And I came back, and then I eventually graduated. But that was sort of that's where I don't say it's trauma, but it was traumatic. It was traumatic to me. I couldn't talk about it, but it wasn't the worst time of my life. As far it sort of made me, I guess you could say. I mean, could you say it was illegal? Yeah, you probably could. It was probably illegal. I did grow stronger out of it, and I always look back as that as a pretty bad time. And I eventually went on to active duty. I got out of the reserves and eventually became commissioned and went on to the force. But that's the way I was. So when I came into my senior year of high school, I was kind of looking in the 80s. It was big hair, and I was skinhead because I came back from basic training, and I was sort of unrecognizable in many ways because I had changed, and not my demeanor, my focus, my intensity had all changed, and they could see a different side. I mean, if you look at my junior or you look at my junior, sophomore year, and you look at my senior year, just on high school, just 2 years, you could see a difference. And so I decided to go ahead and do a lot of things that the institutions and the organizations said that I could not do, such as go to college and do all these other things. So that's kind of where it started, age 17.
And then fast forward, you had a successful career. You were promoted. You were leading men, large
Mm-hmm.
groups,
Yeah, sure.
which is really phenomenal. How were you feeling through that? Did you sort of shut down to that inner feeling of, hey, something's up wrong here, or something's a little off, this is a little abusive? Did you
Oh,
just
no,
shut down to that?
I thought everything was easy cheesy after that. In other words, I became an officer, I became a leader, and I knew how to treat people. I knew how to, delegate. I learned the system early on, and everything after that was sort of a blessing. I'm thinking, I can't believe I'm a lieutenant. I'm leading. I can't believe I'm a captain now. And everybody else was like, how the hell did you do that? And I felt that it was sort of I never took it for granted. And I felt blessed, thankful, very much so, because I was at the bottom, and now I'm kind of rising up that ladder, and I'm thinking, golly, I can't believe it. I can't believe someone like me can do this. And I've defied against the odds. I've defied the test scores. I've defied the school counselors. I've defied my mom and dad, everybody else. And everybody was like, how in the hell did you, get out of college, become a leader, and start moving up? So I was really thankful. And I thought, ooh, hopefully this doesn't just get taken away from me. And that's my feeling going through the process. Mm-hmm.
So you ended up ultimately towards the end being assigned to Seoul, South Korea.
Seoul, South Korea. It was South Korea as an assignment that even today, it's a large overseas assignment. We go to defend the region against aggression from North Korea or the area in that area. So, yeah, so I was in Seoul, South Korea. I had been there. So we're going into the toxic leadership part that I experienced that was hell. I had already served there 2 different times during my 31 years. At the time I went into Seoul, South Korea, U.S Army garrison, it was, 2007. So, I had been in a while. I had already accomplished many things throughout my career. And I walked in third time's a charm is the chapter title of that first book. And it was the third time I was in there, but it was not a charm. And I could tell when I walked into the office, I could sense that something was different. And I'm thinking, and I knew something was different. It's like, it hits you. It's like, oh my God, I understand what's going on here. But I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't know when it's going to happen, but I know it's going to happen, and it's going to happen to me. That was July, and it was July of 2007. I came in, I walked around, I said, "Oh God." I went back and talked to my wife. I said, "Something's going to happen." She said, "You're crazy." But when it happens to you and you can feel it, we're animals in many ways, smelling, sights, sounds, things, and I just knew something eventually was going to happen. I sized up the leadership at the time, and I knew that there's no way I'm going to be able to get along with these folks. And I had to be my own self. That's the only thing I can do. Is the only thing I can be is me. And I knew it was going to run against the grain. And I knew that, and I could tell other people were sort of soft talking and chattering the way they walked around. And I think, it was sort of a perfect storm of toxic, just with me. I mean, but so that's what I was feeling. And of course, I was right. My gut was right. It eventually unraveled into many events that occurred throughout the next 2 years.
So, how did you handle that, being so cognizant intuitively and having that sense of knowing? How did you ferret your way through that 2 year period? And did that help you or did that work against you, that inner knowing?
Knowing it, I wish I didn't know it, because knowing it and knowing that it was going to happen created a lot of anxiety on me, anxiety.
Mm.
So I worked out like a gym rat, and to get rid of release the emotions. I drank a lot of whiskey, beer. Usually that was on the weekends. I was functional. I was performing. But I knew eventually something was going to happen. And that I remember from July of '07 all the way up to around February, March of '08, that was the period of building. And I could see evidence being put together to go against me. And I could just see, I was like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. And then it was sort of like, once it did happen, I was called into the office and charged with subversion and espionage against the U.S. government. That was one charge. Another charge was I was a pedophile. I was a playful So what I'm saying is, like, when I build this story, you're going to see these hideous charges that I'm going to be talking about, and hideous events. The thing about it is, once you're a senior leader in government and the organization or the people don't like you, or it's the Mean Girls Club, or if they don't like you and they don't want you, you just can't fire them. I'm a senior person. But what you can do is you can play games and screw with them to try to transfer them out. It's called passing the trash. We don't like this person. Let's create a lot of stuff up. Maybe he'll leave, or maybe we'll get so much attention that the leadership higher up in the hierarchy will just move him somewhere. So the first thing is the first one, they wanted to go ahead and throw a rumor around the base that I was a pedophile. Now, yes, my daughter was in the first grade, and I am a very playful father. And I would go to the school. We would play. I was a soccer coach. I would chase the kids around the base with a monster mask. I was very playful, and I enjoyed. That was stress relief for me to see kids running around, laughing and screaming and smiling. And so I did that a lot. But I was not a pedophile. I'm on base. I'm a senior leader, and I'm out playing around, going crazy with the kids and doing all this activity. So they wanted to go ahead and let's get him on that. So the rumor went around that I was a pedophile. So I was sort of blacklisted. But there was no formal investigation on that. There was no, it was just a rumor. When that didn't work, it went away. And then when it went away, then I became formally charged with espionage against the U.S. government. So I went from a pedophile to a spy in the military within about a year. So, and the spying activity, which was also bullshit, that was I had criminal investigation involved. I had I had to get a lawyer. I had military intelligence involved. This was when they really wanted to see if they can knock me out. First one, pedophile rumor, went away. Then it went to a spying, subversion and espionage against the U.S. government. And so I went on to the Hill to go see my boss and see all the investigators that were being in the case. And you're being charged with, we believe you're a spy, subversion and espionage against the U.S. government. We had CID, MI. It was all formal. They did all the various formal things they do when they do those things. And I said, yeah, I want a lawyer. Went ahead and got the attorney. And he said, "Are you sure you ain't doing nothing?" I says, "No." And he says, "Well, if they ain't got nothing on you, that their job is to find something on you. That's their job. Somebody leaked something somewhere to say that you were a spy. That's why all these people are there. And so they have reason to believe that you're a spy. And if you're not, you're not. And they just watch your back." And so I went through another period of another year of just people following me around, boom cameras, just trying to trip me up and trying to ask me various questions offline and things. So it was a period of hell for me. And so nothing happened though. Nothing happened. I kind of know who was behind it. It had to do with super toxic. It had to do with the supervisor in charge and their minions there. So, like I say, if you're a senior, you can't, like if you're in the government or if you're in the police force or you're in a hierarchy that you just can't, people just, they just make shit up. They'll just make shit up. And it could be in different ways. And to try to get rid of you or to try to transfer you, they don't want you there. So they have to do different things. And so, a lot of people say, "What the hell did you do, Jason, to piss off these people?" What I think, I know some things to answer that question, it's very, my answer may sound strange to you, but I disagreed on, I disagreed on publishing papers in the organization. In other words, I disagreed with a particular scientist who was there. He's still there. He'll probably die there. But I didn't understand that his work is his life. I mean, I didn't understand it. He took it so personal. I mean, he did. And that was my failure. My failure was that I know people like to work and their job is their life. I understand that, but he takes it to a different, if you didn't agree with him, damn, you're out of there, man. You're like, if you didn't agree, he takes it personal. If you're not with him, he feels that you're against him. And I wasn't against the man. He was a researcher. I'm not a researcher, and he asked me, do you want to, I got some publications. We can do some publications to get your name on it. I don't really care about it. But that's like saying your newborn baby is fat and ugly and stupid. That's what it's like to him in his world. And so that's where it was at. And it could be a very slight, and someone just takes it and says, "Well, I'm going to go and I'm going to screw your life up or try to get you out of here." But that's what it was. And so and I had to work through that. And that was my worst experience, really, in the Army. Even though I've been to war in Afghanistan and El Salvador and many other places, that was it. That was the worst part.
It almost seemed, you did mention earlier that it was the perfect storm. And as I'm looking back at your life, at 17, you had to prove yourself from the inside to yourself. Then you had that piece of you. But here you are in this perfect storm where you now have to prove outside because these guys are coming after you for numerous reasons.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm sure there are other things that were hidden at that
Yeah.
base that were going on that had nothing to do with you, that they were all privy to, that
Yeah,
may have been covered
it was
up.
a perfect storm. I walked in there and I just had a perfect storm. That was it. Also, my identity was with the Army and this is my family. And I took it and I was like, man, they're trying to kick me out. Look at all the, and so it's like, man, I can't believe, that they're trying to kick me out. And I didn't do anything. And so the guy, the person that I'm talking about, I think he's a good guy. If he was my next door neighbor, I think he would be a good guy. Like I say, it was a perfect storm. And if I was not in the particular office, maybe I was in an outside office. I think once you look at your enemies, when you write, you also, there's good things about them, bad things about them, and you start to realize things. But yeah, it was a perfect storm, and I had to really dig deep down, and really, I relied on family members, friends. I went to the chaplain. I went to the mental health counselor when it was not needed, when it was not popular to do that. Even I think they're probably good people in their own right. It's just things just came together where I was going to get kicked out, and I stayed with it. My name did become mud. It became mud because there was so much stuff coming out of South Korea so you move from South Korea to somewhere else, but they didn't know where to assign me. They heard the leadership and the people in personnel heard so many crazy things, I'm sure, because I have reason to believe that really well. So because I was about to move to another assignment, and they just didn't want to talk to me. They didn't know what to do, and I understood that they probably heard so many things that they couldn't believe where to put the pikester at, the pike me. And I said, well, I eventually did go to Afghanistan and did very well and came back and was redeemed from the dead, from the dead, like a Jesus Christ. But because I did well in Afghanistan, but it took a number on me, and I had to go and eventually process out and seek mental health for a period of years.
What I also find beautiful about the experience, even while you were in it, it seems like you could hold the peace that this guy that was basically perpetrating this behavior on you, foisting it on you, you could still hold on to yourself and know you were this being, and he also wasn't a complete monster, and that you were going through a process. It was almost like a baptismal process of soul evolution during this experience. It feels to me like this was a divine storm. This was the way that you were going to learn a huge, pivotal core lesson for your soul to expand. And that's what you ultimately did. And just like you did early on in your career, you moved through it and you were going to stand up to it. Here you did. All the pieces came together for you to stand up to this malignancy that you knew was there, but not see it as the complete enemy, but almost like a teaching tool for your evolution. And then you did go on to Afghanistan and prove your merit. And then did you come out after that? And how long was the period until you decided to write about your experience?
Wow. When I came out of Afghanistan, I was burned, and they gave me the secret handshake and said, you can go to Germany and have a chill assignment and retire out of there, which I took. And I just sort of did transitional work to get out. But for a period of years afterwards, so I retired 2014. You're looking at 3 to 4 years easily of going through counseling, EMDR, and various other things. And I didn't really start writing the book until 2020. And that's when I said, I got to write this book. I know I've got a damn story. And it was bugging. It was nagging at me. And I said, I don't know how to write a book. I failed. I mean, English is my worst subject. Believe it or not, it really is. But I wanted to write a book. I'm thinking I've got stories. And then I went through the process. I don't know anybody who writes. And so I just went through the process of finding a ghostwriter and things. And it took me 3 to 4 years. And that was hell. I mean, writing all these things out and seeing it on your, how can I do this? I mean, I'm no good, man. I'm not good. I'm not good enough. Look at all these books in the library. Look, but I'm nothing, man. It's like, look at, and so I had all these self-doubts and things were just, that first book was hell. It was hell for me. And I almost died writing that first book, because when your life is on paper, I say, I can't, am I brave enough to get this out there? And I went into the Stone Oak Methodist Hospital February 2021 during the mega snowstorm of Texas. And I thought, I was diagnosed to die, pretty much. Blood clots were throughout my lungs and legs, and I had pneumonia. And it was really stressing and sitting down. I'm usually a physically active guy. Right now, I'm standing up. But I just sat down and I stressed, and I went and blood clots through. And when I went into the ICU, and they didn't have much hope. We did the end of life obituary and things of that nature, where the grave was at Fort Sam Houston, Texas. So I thought I was going to die, and I really did. And I had that feeling. And but once they put the blood thinner on, and it was because of the book and going through that life. But the blood, my body just came back from the dead. The blood thinner and the antibiotics really did help. And they in the ICU, they monitor all these little devices and things. And I'm just sitting there trying to survive. So I don't know, but the doctor says, it looks like your body's coming back. We're just going to not do anything and allow your body to come back with the medicines. And I said, okay, whatever. And so it did. And it came back, and I was eventually on oxygen and got out. And but that's what happened by writing the book. put me into a zone, a place that I don't want to go back to. But now since I've done it, I can do other books. I've got the big stressors out there. So yeah, that's what happened with the book and the process.
Yeah, it's really remarkable to me that you definitely came in with a mission. You were assigned a mission.
Yeah.
And you said yes to it, even though it was difficult. You said yes. And I identify with the process that you went through, particularly with your memoir. And I'm so grateful that you could, put that out because I think the more of us that are speaking up about the systems that we, really relied on and treasured and honored may have a few holes in places. And we need to take a look at that. And we need to have the strength to take a look at that. And by you setting an example and putting it out in black and white, it's really going to help others. And it is helping others, I know.